Welcome to War Thunder, known as one of the most realistic.
Whoa! Whoa! Oh my gosh! Ah!
What the War Thunder is split into three different groups. One being tanks, one being planes, and one being fleet. Wait. That's not in the game yet. Coming soon, fleet. In War Thunder you have different types of planes. These consist of fighter, heavy fighter, dive bomber, bomber, and attacker. Fighters tend to have a rather tight turning radius in order to chase down enemies and pack a punch despite their small size. If you're new to the game, I recommend that you try Russian and British, as they tend to have the best turning and the best weapon. You'll quickly learn that if you're playing attacker or bomber role, fighters is something you want to stay away from with a high climb rate and deadly firepower. A heavy fighter, just like a fighter, is meant to only engage planes. The sad part about the heavy fighter is that it has some serious design flaws. Due to its enlarged size, it can't turn as well as other fighters. But when engaging an enemy, it tends to get the kill much faster than a fighter if it's not in a turning battle. This is due to the fact that you can stick more guns in a bigger plane. The heavy fighter can also double as under the attacker role. Due to having more guns in the wings, it fits perfectly into this classification. But there is also specialized units for the attacker, like the IL-2 in Russian. We'll get to that soon. The attacker is a role that is designed to kill ground units on a more intimate level. Compared to something like a bomber, which stays up at high altitudes and carpet bombs, the attacker gets up close and personal and tends to have big guns on the front of it, as well as carrying things like rockets and bombs. Due to carrying such heavy things on such a small plane, you tend to lose a lot of speed and maneuverability with this class, and obviously being at low altitude can make you a sitting duck for people who like to do energy fighting. Despite all the downfalls of the attacker role, it's one of my favourite to play, especially in realistic battles. You might find yourself coming out of games with a lot more deaths, but to me it's the fun that counts of it, and I recommend that you give it a go, especially the IL-2. Bombers, just like attackers, are meant to kill ground targets. The difference being, a bomber can go to a high altitude and still kill things with its bomb sight. An attacker has to stay low. Bombers like the B-17, which is on the screen now, tend to have a lot of guns just on every part of it that is possible. The reason for this is so that if a fighter gets on the tail, it can be dealt with quickly and has a higher chance of saving the aircraft. The downfall of bombers is that they tend to be so big, and if they take damage, the huge mass makes them hard to keep up in the sky. They also tend to be quite sluggish and hard to land, meaning that getting to base can be an issue. A lot of planes can catch up with you, and when you do actually go to land, if you have damage on your plane already, it's just going to make it that much harder. Ground Force is a place where this game really shines. You get to see firsthand how beautiful this engine can make things look. In War Thunder Ground Forces, you have your three main types of tank. You got your heavy tank, your medium tank, your tank destroyer, and your SPAA. Since Ground Forces is pretty much brand new, it's only a couple of months old, it is very glitchy right now. Physics do not even exist in this game. I'm sorry, but look at this shit. I spawn on top of a goddamn bunker. One other tank has spawned but me, and I decide to spawn on a fucking bunker. I then am forced to somersault onto my knob. No choice whatsoever. And then for the next 10 minutes of my life, I get rammed by an ISU and an IS-2 attempting to flip me back over, and all to end in the grand finale of me getting slammed into a fucking tree and dying. What is physics? Heavy tanks are the big ones in the game. They have big guns, big bodies, and a lot of armor. It's almost like a tank destroyer without the tank destroyer properties, so it has an actual turret. It's maneuverable to a certain extent. It's got a lot of armor, so if anything comes to shoot back at you, you can usually take it if you're facing them head on. But if you're expecting to get into a heavy tank and whiz around the map, get behind enemy lines, and do some serious damage, this is not going to be for you. Heavy tanks' downfall is that they are so big that their acceleration, their speed, all that is very, very low. And turning left to right really isn't an option in one of these. You have to be faced head on and stay still and hope that your tank armor survives what's shooting at you. Whereas in a medium tank, you can whiz around in and out of buildings and stuff so you don't get hit. Medium tanks is where my love for the game really comes in. Medium tanks are quick and they have a decent amount of firepower. What they're really meant for is getting behind enemy lines, unlike heavy tanks. You're meant to bob and weave in and out of buildings and try not to use your armor, but use your environment to act as the armor for you. You'll quickly learn that your tank isn't as sturdy as the heavy tanks, but you'll notice that you can use its advantages to make up for it. Be warned when wanting to go for medium tanks though, because it is a bumpy road. You will really have to learn the playstyle of a medium tank, and War Thunder already has a really large learning curve to it, and it personally took me a long time to get used to medium tanks. Where the medium tank fails is obviously in its armor, like I've already mentioned, and the fact that they're a lot easier to break. In my opinion, they're the best type of tank in the game, but there's so much that can go wrong when you're in a medium tank, and if you go out onto a flat map, you're gonna struggle, sadly. Tank Destroyer is a class in this game where you tend not to have a turret, instead of you have a giant stick coming out the front of the tank. They're not very maneuverable most of the time. You struggle to hit things if they aren't ahead of you, but what really helps is the fact that you have one of the highest velocity guns on the front of your tank destroyer, and you got to use that to its advantages. So if you sit back and snipe, you're not going to have much of an issue. Where this tank really shines is in open maps, because your gun's such high velocity, you can travel across the map pretty quickly, unlike the heavy tank guns and the medium tank guns, which are quite sluggish and tend to have quite a drop on them. Hills are the best places. If you get a higher vantage point and you can see them and they're going to struggle to shoot up at you, that's even better. A lot of tank destroyers have quite thick armor on the front, but worse than ever on the sides, even compared to like the German 50mm armor that's on the sides. I recommend going into some custom battles with the AI first to try and learn the playstyle. Same goes for the medium. I'm not going to do a part on the SPAA, just due to the fact that SPAA, there's no way of doing it in the AI mode like this, and it's not really a tank. You just got to learn with the SPAA to stay back and shoot into the sky pretty much.